So guys, as you could tell with the Special Booster 2.0, releasing specific strategies with almost their entire support out of both BT 18 and 19, we have another strategy we're focusing on here, and we are talking about arguably the most unique of the Demon Lords. Of all of them, we have the descending 7th Demon Lord, or at least the most important one in my opinion. We have Lucemon himself, as he will be the focus of specifically this What's the Scoop, as we dive into both the supports that we have in Special Booster 2.0. But as always, before we get into the video, we have one request of you, and that small request is helping us out by smashing and accelerating the sub count. It helps out by you guys liking the video and subscribing to the channel, as we are growing the ad army with your support. Additionally, as well, if you're new to the channel, but if maybe you're a seasoned veteran at this point now, when you watch What's the Scoop, you get a first look, but so do I. So I get to look at these amazing cards and get these information for you set up so that you can sit back or watch or listen and simply enjoy the information here as we dive into the strategy, focusing on the support for Lucemon. So let's look at what we've got here quick. So looking into what we've actually got a wide array of cards. Many of them are anime references, but I'm very glad for the final couple cards. They are the additional support designed from other media of Digimon to give Lucemon a bit more of a well-rounded support, as I do think this deck is finally kind of culminating into what it should be in terms of being its own strategy, as with this support, it really does showcase what we have here. So we're going to be jumping into the first card here, as we have the brand new Lucemon out of BT 18 that we will be getting with all of its support. As first of all, this is a very unique Lucemon here, where it can Digivolve specifically on Cupimon for a cost of 5, and at the start of your main phase or on play, by trashing one card in your hand, your opponent may trash their top security card. If this effect didn't trash any card, you get to recover +1. And at the end of your turn, once per turn, by placing one of your level 6 Digimon as the top security card, this Digimon may Digivolve into Lucemon Chaos Mode in your trash without paying the cost. Moving into the next card, we actually have a brand new Lucemon Chaos Mode here, which Digivolves on top of Lucemon for a cost of 6 here. It is a dual color purple-yellow, and then on play or when Digivolving, your opponent may delete one of their Digimon or Tamers. If this effect didn't delete a Digimon, you get to recover +1, and you trash your opponent's top security card. Then all turns, once per turn, when this Digimon would leave the battle area, by trashing your bottom security card, it doesn't leave. Very cool. And it has 13,000 DP on a level 5, so that is crazy, but if you understand the mechanic, it is there. But talking about the most powerful Lucemon finally released, we have Lucemon in its Satan mode here, being able to Digivolve on top of Lucemon Chaos Mode here for a cost of 6. This Digimon's when Digivolving effect is by playing one Lucemon larva from your trash to your empty breeding area without paying the cost. You get to delete one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers. At the end of all turns, once per turn, trash your opponent's top security card. If this effect didn't trash, you get to delete one of your opponent's Digimon and one of their Tamers. Very powerful for a level 7, lots of effects. But let's talk about the card that was mentioned in it, as we have Lucemon Larva here, which actually has a security effect where if it is hit in security, you may play one Lucemon from your trash without paying the cost. Then it has a breeding effect all turns. When any of your Lucemon Satan mode would leave the battle area, by moving this Digimon to the battle area, they don't leave. And then all turns, while you have a non-white Digimon with Lucemon in its name, none of your 0 DP Digimon can be deleted. Very important for later on. So let's talk about the other wave of support for BT19 to finish off this strategy. We have the first card here, which is Lucemon X Antibody, a top end for this line, which can Digivolve on top of any level 5 or higher with Lucemon in its name for a cost of 3. Then all turns, or once per turn, when this Digimon would leave the battle area, if a card with Lucemon is in its name in this Digimon's Evolution cards, by trashing both players' top security cards, it doesn't leave. Very cool. And then at the end of your turn, once per turn, your opponent may trash their top security card. If this effect didn't trash, you get to recover +1 and delete one of their Digimon or Tamers. So pretty powerful here. Moving into the two options we have Gospel of the Fallen Angel first, which is out of BT18. Main, for its main effect, your Digimon in the breeding area may Digivolve into Lucemon in your trash without paying the cost, and then you place this card in the battle area. For its main effect, or for its delay, during the main phase, by Digivolving one of your Digimon with Lucemon in its name into a Digimon card with Lucemon in its name in the trash with the Digi-Evolution cost reduced by 3, you trash one of your opponent's option cards in the battle area, which is really unique here. And for security effect, you get to play this card in the battle area, so basically just putting it in for its delay effect. Finally, we have the last one here, which is 7 Divine Crews, a dual color purple yellow for the X Antibody Lucemon here, which has a trash effect during your turn when any of your Digimon Digivolve into Lucemon X Antibody. By returning this card to the bottom of the deck, your opponent may trash their top security card. If this effect didn't trash, you get to recover +1. For its main effect, you get to delete your opponent's Digimon until they have as many as you have security cards. If this effect deleted, you get to recover +1, and then for its security effect, you may play one Lucemon from your trash without paying the cost. And interestingly enough, this card is always treated as a 7 grade Demon Lords type, so really cool here. And that is all the support. Luckily, the strategy was relatively small in its support, but it received so much different levels that it's finally kind of rounded out what Lucemon needs to be. So kind of starting off, what do you do with this strategy? So if you guys know, pretty much Lucemon is a really interesting strategy that has always kind of been back and forthing because it just never had enough support. And then finally, when we received stuff from, I think, EX6 or 5, when we received the 7 grade Demon Lord support, we received more Lucemon support because obviously Lucemon's a part of, or Chaos Mode Lucemon specifically is a part of the 7th grade Demon Lords, but with more support to Lucemon as a strategy, this deck finally was kind of filling out to be more than just you bringing back a Lucemon Chaos Mode with like Dead or Alive, but now the strategy is really filled out to being more of a, I wouldn't say standalone, but it's becoming more of a viable strategy where you can actually play it. Looking at the new Lucemon at BT18, I think this card's very good because it's basically saying for the high cost you'll get by Digivolving this thing on top of Cupimon, you're going to be able to trash a card of your opponent's hand, and if they didn't, you basically start to rip security from them. So this deck can really quickly snowball to getting security down from your opponent because a lot of its effects focus on trashing your opponent's security, so they have to be worrisome of that. Also, with the brand new Chaos Mode, I think one thing that makes this card very good is that it continues the theming of making your opponent get rid of resources, and if they don't, you get to recover your security and then you trash their security cards. So very good, because this deck basically says, hey, if you're gonna take me on and I'm gonna be able to rip security from you, I'm gonna force you to either get rid of your resources, so you're slowly whittling them down because of the high cost that the Lucemon cards have for their evolutions. It's really, very investment worthy in terms of that strategy. And then basically with its cool effect of when it would leave the battle area by trashing the bottom security, I just think that's very fantastic because this card has 13,000 DP. Like, I wasn't trying to just tell you that in the video. I'm making it a point where this card has a lot of DP for a level 5. So if you bring this out very quickly, this card can snowball because in security checks, it's basically going to either be dealt with options or specifically level 6 Digimon with higher DP or level 7s. So this card will have a good time checking security by swinging into it. Satan mode is really cool, but my thing with it is that although I think it makes a lot of sense, it's a very high cost to go into it, and it also needs some setup where I think this card looks really good, but power-wise, it still has some flaws. Like, its biggest issue, I think, is that you need to have the larva in trash so that you can use its effect when you Digivolve into this thing, and it's not bad, but that means if the larva's not there, then the first effect when it Digivolves won't do anything. But you could do that. But the end of alternative effect, I think, is where it works, where your opponent has to trash one, and if they don't, you just start blowing up their tamers in Digimon. That to me is just like, okay, this card's gonna start starving you really quickly, because if you're not getting rid of this thing quick enough, it's going to basically ruin you out. Then talking about Larva, I think Larva is fantastic because thematically from the anime, this is why it has the effects that it does. It's actually really cool too to think that Lucemon actually, when it turns into the Saiyan mode, it's actually in the core, like the specific larva is the core of Lucemon. So it's cool to see that. Ultimately, I really like its effect to move itself from the breeding area, because I think that's just cool, because it's like when Saiyan mode was defeated in the anime by Susanomon, the larva popped out and was actually able to keep fighting. So that's a cool thing where it basically says, oh, I need to protect the main body, and it does that. But additionally, for its alternative effect, I love that effect where it says none of your 0 DP Digimon can be deleted. This also basically says for non-white Digimon, so, you know, it means that specifically this has to be on the field. But the reason I like it is that if your opponent for some reason is playing something where they drop DP, if they drop the DP on one of your other Digimon to 0, the joke's on them, because you're like, hey, guess what? It can't be deleted. So as long as you can keep Larva on the field, Larva will protect them. So that's just really cool. Additionally, with the X-Antibody forms, I think X-Antibody Lucemon is cool because the deck basically just chunks out the Chaos modes as quickly as possible on top of Lucemon. So by giving them something they can go on to that's not Saiyan mode, this is just fantastic. And it can actually go on top of Saiyan mode if you have to. So that basically makes X-Antibody very good, because it just basically says, hey, we can keep going, we can do more. It's not just that. I also love its alternative effects. So by keeping itself in the battle area, I like that by trashing both of the top securities, it works, because like I said before, with something like Beelzemon X, I think this card is very reminiscent of that, because you're just like, hey, I'm going to trash both of our securities. It might matter more to you than it does to me. And I also like its turns effect because you're able to recover more and delete stuff. This basically becomes a good top end to finish off your strategy with. Gospel of the Fallen Angel, I think, is a really cool card. I think the main usage of this card that is really cool is that it basically says, hey, I'm going to be able to Digivolve into Lucemon, or your Digimon into a Digimon into Lucemon, specifically in the trash. So it says, hey, I'm going to turn this Cupimon into specifically Lucemon, and then I'm going to be ready to set up for the delay effect. So this card, to me, is really cool because when you reduce the evolution cost by 3, that's really big, because you can turn specifically Chaos Mode into a 3-cost evolution. That's cool. You can turn specifically like Saiyan Mode into a 3-cost evolution on top of the the Chaos Mode. You start to see so many different advantages here where you need to use this card because it's really good. Also, when you get to trash one of your opponent's options cards in the battle area, I think this is a really unique effect, because it basically now starts to deal with the trainings, deal with memory boosts, other delay cards. I think that's just a cool, unique effect that some cards might start having, where it's almost like they're a removal spell, like in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I think that's just cool. For a security effect, you just simply play it. Its delay effect is still good, so if you play it out, it doesn't matter if you don't get the first effect. The second effect is still very good, so if you check it in security, it's just a win more for you in that case. Finishing off with specifically 7th Divine Cruise, I like this card. I like this card because it's a weird board wipe, but it's a smart one, because if you have very little security, this card basically tells your opponent, hey, sorry, but you're going to lose everything up to my security. So maybe your opponent has a really wide board and you're like, boom, now they're down to like 1 or 2 Digimon. And that's sounds enough. But because it is also, a 7-cost option, you have to figure out how to when you want to use it. But also, if it doesn't trash anything, you're basically just getting a recovery +1. So you can think of it like Magna Angemon, I guess, which is kind of hilarious. Additionally, for its main effect, you get when you delete your opponent's Digimon. I just think that effect is just really good. I just think that's like the main focus of it. Its main effect is just really, really good. Its trash effect is what I was talking about before, but your opponent can also trash your top security cards to stop that. So it's it depends. Like this deck really has a lot of your opponent can do stuff to stop you, but they don't have to. So it is really up to what your opponent wants to do. For its security effect, being able to play Lucemon from the trash, It's like, yes, because this strategy desperately also needed a way to play Lucemon without having to pay 10 memory. That was like one of the biggest weaknesses I think Lucemon's always had, is that since the card has incredible power as a rookie, it's always been handicapped by that limited effect of being able to not be played out. This card also allows it to kind of cheat Lucemon out, so this strategy is able to do it. Finishing up here, I think the strategy is pretty good. I think the problem Lucemon still might have is that this deck is playable. It can catch people off guard if they don't know what the deck does, but it also has some weaknesses in that it has a lot of play cost cards that are heavy, so bricking in this deck is possible. Yes, you could say, oh, you have Lucemon, you'll be fine. Yeah, you have to still pay to Digivolve it on top of like Cubimon for 5, so inherently that's going to be tough for you playing the deck, because you have to factor in like, I'm going to lose 5 memory immediately from bringing out the Lucemon by Digivolving it. So what else can I do to offset that? That's another like problem I think the strategy has, is it has the what can I do to make it not cost as much. And it's not a bad thing, but that's also, you know, something you don't always want when you're playing a deck like this. You know, you don't always want to play a strategy where you're always worried about reducing the problems you incur because you are playing it. But this doesn't mean the strategy is bad. I think it's cool. I think personally, Lucemon probably needs some more indirect support. I think you can use the Royal Knights from BT13 to support it, because they are purples, so they could in theory kind of help out, but I think they still need to create some more support geared around Lucemon. So like maybe their own Dynasmon, maybe their own Lord Knightmon to support building the strategy a bit better. But you know, in time I think they will do that, but right now it's not the case. But this strategy is definitely a playable strategy. I'm not going to say it's like my favorite strategy ever, but it isn't bad, and you should definitely give it a shot if you want. This deck isn't really like I would say like a high tier thing. Like, it's not really going to be impossible for any new player to understand it. It's just that you have to compile a lot of support. And this deck isn't necessarily expensive. It's just that it's not the cheapest thing ever, because a lot of its cards have been expensive in the past. So you have to factor that in. But that's all I've got for you guys today. As we close off this What's the Scoop on the 7th Demon Lord himself in Lucemon, as pretty much this has been What's the Scoop with Lucemon for 2.0. And as always, this has been Brad from the Ad Army signing off, and for all of you out there, to sign on.